Should I clap again?
Hello, Cynthia.
Hi, how are you today, Alan?
I'm very well. How are you?
I'm good, yeah.
You arrived at this hotel a few days ago.
I did.
Are you feeling nice and rested after your mammoth effort across Morocco?
Yes, I have slept 3 times. Not enough at each of those 3 times, but I have slept, so that's good. I'm feeling much better.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I want to start a little interview. It's so hard to know how to encompass such an enormous journey, and I'm sure that you'll take a little while to process it going forward. But if we try and sort of move through from the beginning and all the way through, first it makes sense to ask you, coming into this race, how your preparation was, given that you hadn't necessarily been to Morocco before, and you had these months in a relatively different climate coming, yes, from North America, which is in its winter months. So what was your training like, and how were you sort of preparing mentally for what is your longest race that you've done so far?
Yeah, this year, so I basically am taking racing on full time. I still have other jobs that I do because I don't want to be one-dimensional, but I have been working with a cycling coach for the first time in many, many years since I was racing on the road, and I had really good preparation in terms of training. I spent 3 months really with focused and structured training, which is something I've not done in a long time. Like, I just would ride my bike forever and be like, I'm ready for a race. And now I've spent this last couple of months with my coach, and his name is Dennis, and he's really like kind of explained a lot of things to me and helped me think about things for the race that I would have never thought about. Like staying on my own time zone when I came here, because the race started at 6 p.m. So it's better to be on my time zone, which is 6 hours behind. So starting at lunch. Okay, it didn't work, but it's a great idea. I wasn't able to do it. But yeah, preparation was really good. I feel this isn't the first ultra race I've done, so you have your processes and you have your procedures and you've got your checklists and you do things over and over again. I have moved a bunch recently and my stuff is like everywhere, so before I came I had it was 0 degrees where I had just moved, and it was going to be that way for a week. 0 Fahrenheit, so that's very cold Celsius.
Yeah, very cold Celsius.
And I needed another big block of training, and so I basically moved and then packed all of the stuff I needed for this race and flew to Florida for a week and some change so I could do some training outside because it was too cold to ride, just not good for you. So I feel like I went the extra mile to do the prep for this race because it was a really important race to me, definitely an A race this year. I ate eggs before. I don't like eggs, and I ate some omelets leading up to it, so I trained that too.
Are you a home trainer person? Is that like in part of your mix, or
like on the trainer at home? Like, no way. I used a trainer once this year, and it was because it was -5 Fahrenheit outside, so I was like, well, I guess I can. Yeah, and then I flew to Florida.
So Florida was your big push, and then outside of that you were trying to make it work whichever way you could from your... Also, you're in the middle of moving. That's really tricky.
Moving it was tough. It was definitely challenging. Luckily, the weather, I don't know, not luckily, global warming, but I was in places where it wasn't too bad. I wasn't seeing like below 0 or like below 32 Fahrenheit very often. So I'm okay with riding out in that weather. Like, I'll do it. It's not a big, it's, to me, it's my job. That's how I feel, at least. And so, it's just like, it's a crappy day at work. I got to go ride in the rain today. Sometimes that happens, but you get the work done, and then you feel ready when you get to race day.
And then sort of the lead-on question coming into that is that how were you feeling coming into race day? Did you feel like you were where you wanted to be?
I had some qualms about my bike because it's not the bike. I believe that my hardtail is just a tool, and my gravel bikes from 3T are like, those are the bikes I want to ride. So it's really hard for me to be happy and comfortable on a bike that is a great bike, but it's just not. It's a tool. It's not my one true love. So I dealt with a bunch of things that were limiting me to feel ready, and even in the start of the race, even in the race, I actually had to move some do some cleat movement on one of my shoes, and I actually had to raise my saddle a little bit, and I did these little tinkerings, and I knew before the start of the race I was going to have to do it because I went on a ride and I was like, yeah. But besides that, all the other preparation I did, I felt ready, except the fit of my bike. But yeah, I lined up And actually, when we actually lined up on the second day, I wasn't ready because I didn't think we were going to start. I hadn't put my contacts in. I didn't go to the bathroom. Like all of the things before the start of a race that you do, I was like rushing around to do them because we got the call like, hey, we're starting in 20 minutes.
This is very much the beauty of the Nelson race, is that it tends to go this way in taking different forms, that you have to be ready to adapt. And I did think that the delay of 24 hours definitely affected people in quite different ways. So how was it like for you in the 24 hours between we're not starting today into like quickly get your bike and go?
I think one thing that it's really helpful to have somebody who's on the outside looking in and just reminding you, and my coach Dennis was like, everyone else is doing the same thing. Everyone else has got the same experience. Like you're not at a disadvantage, like, process it and deal with it. And honestly, we had some at Badlands this year, like they were doing route changes potentially because of rain and stuff like that. And it's like, you can't control it. So why get mad about it? Why get stressed? Just go with the flow and focus on what you can control. And that may be, making those last minute perfections to your bike setup or eating more, which I did both.
Yes. I mean, I guess that's the other part, is that if your plan and your intention and your expectation is too rigid, then the second that goes out the window, then it really messes you up. Right?
Yeah, and that's for before, and that's for during the race too. I'm not really a planner. I'm like a kind of I'll figure it out person, and I definitely going into this race still was I'll figure it out. Like I wrote down the resupply, but I didn't really make a plan because you can't. You never know what's going to happen, and so you could. Literally in the race, we climbed to a point where we were supposed to go right, but because of the rain and everything, the police made us go all the way back down the mountain we had just climbed to go up a different pass. And those kinds of things, you just can't control it, and you just have to go with the flow. And, if you get your panties in a wad, then you're just stressing yourself out and making yourself more tired, and it's all about saving energy.
And how was the lead out for you? Because it was very fast paced, and also a big group were pushing a very fast pace. It wasn't just this like handful, it was like a huge group. So how was that for you?
I just laugh every time. I'm like, you're gonna be out the back. I'm gonna pass all of you in like a day or whatever. It's just like, and even some of the women, I was like, wow, you're really going hard right now. Like I have been there before, but I just couldn't imagine that was was going to be beneficial. Everyone has their own tactics, and some people utilize that tactic, especially the men at the front. They're definitely going fast because they have all those other dudes who are in the way that are not going to be there later. But one of the things today or for this race was I needed to start out at a better pace, my own pace, and not go too hard, because typically I'll drop off an effort at the end of a race, and I knew it's because I'd gone too hard. So I was trying a different tactic this time, and it worked. I felt terrible on the first day. God, you saw me on the first day and a half, and I was, oh my God, I was in the hurt locker. I was in the mental hurt locker and the physical hurt locker. I just couldn't get out of it, and then I slept. And then I felt better.
And I guess the part of this as well is I was curious about this in terms of an expectation thing. I think that part of the mindset that you were in when we saw each other at, I think it was kilometer 385 around, which in less than 24 hours, which for me was just amazing to see the effort put in, or for you guys a bit more because you'd accidentally climbed that bit of mountain. And to have in that first 24 hours Natalie like so much right next to you, did you feel that played into your mindset in the end of that first day, and then how you felt about the next 24 hours after that?
When I saw you that first before 24 hours, I was struggling mentally because she was passing me with such vigor. She literally walked past me when I went on the hike-a-bike section that was really long. Like I was going backwards, and I thought, this is bad, and I was like, if she's going to keep up this pace, I'm not going to be able to. And also, like, I just was feeling terrible. I sat down on the ground and I had to cry, like that kind of thing happens. But it was a long race. Yeah. It's a long race. And I thought, well, I can't focus on her. I was focusing on her too much the first 24 hours. Okay. And I needed to focus on myself. And I realized that, and it made a world of difference. Like when I was able to just be like, wait, this is my race. I have to race my race because if I race somebody else's race, then I forget stuff. I don't do the things I need, the self-care. You know, I've got to put sunscreen on. I need to put chain lube on. I've got to do all these things. And if I'm being sloppy, then 4 days from, or 3 days from then, I'm going to be cracked. You know, I'm going to have bloody lips from, you know, dry skin and like the sun and whatever. But yeah, spending that extra time because I was focusing on myself is what I needed to do. And when I made that change, it made a world of difference.
Cool. It's funny because I heard quite a similar thing from Justinas when we talked, that you go past that shop and you have to remind yourself, like, stop and buy the water,
yes.
you know, because it's just like go 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 go. But you have to.
You have to do it. I mean, like literally, and even if they go past you, like, yeah, you may have worked so hard up the Colonial Road to get, to get past, but if they come blasting and you're like, did I just waste all that effort? You know, is that it's a question you ask yourself. Oh my God, I was on the old Colonial Road. Actually, at the base of it, I had slept, and I looked at the tracker as I was starting the climb, and Nathalie was 1K behind me. I was like, oh my God.
Go.
I kicked into another gear because one, it was a technical climb that that's the kind of thing, like that loose techie stuff, like that's where I shine. And then also I was competing against her, and I got to the top and I was like kind of falling asleep a little bit. I tried to lay down, and when I did, I was like, found some sand. I was like, I'll lay down here. It was the coldest sand I've ever felt in my life. And I laid down for like, I don't know, maybe a minute, and a light came blasting past me, and I was like, no, I had just done all this work. And, so I immediately get back on my bike and I start pedaling, and I'm like going. I'm like, my heart's beating really fast. I'm mad at myself for stopping. And then it's just Adrian Letke, and I was like...
he's not even in classification because he started in a pair.
Yeah.
But great motivator.
Yeah,
right?
it was. I mean, I really probably should have slept, but I didn't. I didn't sleep, and that's okay. I found another time. Actually, honestly, that was a time where I should have found a place to sleep for longer, because that whole day was a waste. I had 2 days where I like literally was too tired, and I finally connected the dots that the reason why was because I didn't sleep. Like the first night, we didn't sleep. I just went through. And then that day where Nathalie was passing me back and forth, I was feeling like garbage. I hadn't slept in more than 24 hours. And then the next time it happened, I had slept, but it wasn't enough. Like it was an hour, and there was a person next to me in like a town. We had a couple people, like just so that we were together. I didn't want to sleep by myself in this town before the old Colonial Road. And the person was snoring the whole time and woke me up like multiple times, was making like really noises. I was like, so I didn't get enough sleep. And I believe that those 2 days that were really terrible, I felt terrible on those days. And it's really, when you feel terrible, it's hard to eat. So then it's just like a spiral. But yeah, on those days, I realized now in the future, I need to make sure I'm sleeping more.
Yeah. And then I guess my next question would be, we sort of missed each other a bit because you were frankly going far too fast for me in a car. But the next time I saw you, your lead had grown a lot, and I feel like that relaxed you a lot because the pressure was less on you, and then you could focus on other goals that you had a bit because you had this margin.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, like, for the people who weren't watching super avidly, what was the turning point for you when you realized that the gap had grown to the point where you could relax more?
I think between
after Colonial Road, I guess.
After
right?
Colonial Road, yeah. I think she might have slept at the bottom of Colonial Road, maybe. And yeah, after that point, I felt amazing for like 7 hours, and so I was crushing it. And then in the daytime, that's when I started to feel bad. But yeah, I think I still was pushing pretty hard because at one point before that, she had slowed down a bunch, and so I kind of like, I don't know, sometimes I get a little bit of faffy, and I like wasted a little bit of time here and there, and then she was like right there, and I was like, so I think it was after, maybe 10 or 12 hours after the Colonial Road, which I think is like halfway maybe at that point.
It's past.
It's past halfway?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. And then, yeah, the problem with it is I get a little bit lazy too. Like, I stop more.
Imagine people are watching the dots and be like, that woman looks lazy.
I know, but like we went through a river crossing, and one of my feet was wet from the river crossing, and I thought later that I had hot foot. But it turned out it was trench foot, and so I took my sock off, and I was like, oh my God. So I sat at a gas station for an hour to let my foot like breathe so I could keep riding, because it hurt immensely terrible to, like, a trench foot is like, it feels like rocks under your foot when you're pedaling. And like, if I was racing, I wouldn't have been able to do that. I would have had to just continue to suffer through the pain, which I've done before. But yeah, like stuff like that is just like, faffing is all I can say. I get a little bit, I get faffy at the end when I'm like, I could just go a little bit easier here or stop in the shop. I had tea with a shopkeeper like the last morning of the race. And I had actually been out of water for like 6 hours, so it was amazing. After I saw you at that last store at the bottom, I did not buy enough water. It was really bad.
You weren't even going to stop at that shop.
I wasn't going to stop. It was a mistake. I'm glad I did. And then I bought an apple at that shop, and then a couple minutes later, I stopped to fix something in my bag, and a donkey came up, so I fed the donkey an apple. There were 2 donkeys. I fed them an apple, and like that moment, those moments were cool. I got to experience that because I wasn't being chased, or I wasn't chasing somebody. So yeah, it's really special. All those things, like people are like, oh, the racers, they miss so much, and it's like, well, we do miss things, but at the same time, we have these incredible experiences where, like, I don't know, the winner, Justinas, was like the first person to enter our town, and like that, by the time that I get there, it's a different experience than what he's having, because he's he's breaking the ground or whatever. And
Trailblazer.
The trailblazer.
Self-appointed.
Self-appointed.
But I think but in a way, when I hear those stories put next to each other, what I like about it is it almost seems like your race was kind of like a tale of 2 races. There was the first half where it was like, oh my God, we're like, the gap is too close, I gotta go. And then there was and then there was the second half when you realized your gap was bigger and you allowed yourself a bit more of a break to engage a little more while still being competitive with your surroundings.
Yeah, and honestly, the number of races where that's happened, like I raced in Chile, and the same thing. I got to a checkpoint, and I got to experience the like local tribe. They made me bread. I had tea. Like I spent 20 minutes there instead of 2, and I'll always remember that. And the women, it was like the women that were at that place, they were like in charge of this place, and they were so excited to see me. And like at the shop that I went to and had tea, there was a little girl, and she like came up, and I gave her some candy, and we like, it was just a sweet moment. And like those things are really special to experience, and I'm glad that I do get to have them. But it is totally a tale of two parts to the race. I mean, they're long, so
it's almost like when you are shooting for the top spot, it's like you're kind of lucky if you end up getting those experiences, because if it's too tight all the way to the end, the choice isn't really there for you, right? Yes,
you don't get to have that option. I mean, I have been in a race before where I was like pegging it till the end, and like those are also really exciting. I mean, God, I love a race. I'm super competitive. Actually, I was climbing the last long climb on the route, and I think his name is Martin. He came up behind me, and he had some speed coming from the hill, and he was going really fast, and I was like, oh hell no, you ain't gonna drop me. So I wasn't on his wheel, but we were riding next to each other, and he kind of like picked up the pace, and I was like, and he looked back a couple times, and he kept looking back. I was like, no, you are not gonna lose me. And we went ham on this hill. I mean, we're literally 1,300 K into the race. And I was doing, for people who understand power, I was doing 300 watts, which is above my threshold power. And I did it for like an extended period of time, because I was like, I'm not going to let this guy beat me. And it was actually really exciting, because then I had a person to like stay in front of for the last 25K. And it was exciting. I mean, like, I love competition, so it was like, it gave me motivation to keep going, whereas like before that I was like, meh, I'll get there eventually. So
well, I guess that to sort of try and round out the experience, because it's really nice to sort of hear how we brought ourselves towards this like sprint finish, even though you didn't need to. You obviously kind of had this clear idea, maybe for the last like quite chunky bit, that at least for the female field, like that you kind of had the win in the bag. But regardless of that, how did it feel to roll into the finish line and to have accomplished what you set out to do?
When you're in the lead for a long time like that, you get to digest it for a while. Obviously, there are mishaps, and you could DNF, or something could happen, or you could have something happen, and then it takes you a while, and you're battling again. So yeah, it takes a while to digest something like that. But I have plenty of time before to like think, okay, I think I am gonna win. But coming into the finish line, in the middle of the day when people are awake and all your friends are there and people are cheering for you. It's so special. I mean, I finished a ton of time. I don't think I've ever finished an ultra in the daytime. So being in the daytime and like, yeah, it was just like, what a moment, what an experience. And it was a goal of mine to win. And I set goals for myself in everything I do in life. And I think you have to set multiple goals. So if you don't get one of them, at least maybe, if you don't get all of them, at least you can get one. But yeah, I set this goal a long time ago. I wanted to do Atlas last year, but life got in the way for me. And so I finally checked the box on that goal.
You finally did it.
I did it. I did one of Nelson's races. I can say I finally did a Nelson race. I've been waiting for this day forever. Damn it.
Well, I'm super proud of you. Being able to watch the power that you put down there, the distance that you put on the rest of the field, and how much you traipsed. Not only like you. There's so many people behind it, but so many people behind you, and it was really, really cool to watch how much you sort of dominated like the entire general class as well, because it was such a strong field. So massive congratulations.
Thanks so much. I appreciate that. It was a lot of fun.
Thanks for talking to me.
Always. Oh.
So nice.